Hey guys, I'm Lindsay Cummings, author of a bunch of books. Where are my books? There they are. We need to talk about books, but specifically this book in particular. Why? Because it's November. November is one of my favorite times of the year, not just because I love fall, but because it's NaNoWriMo, and that is National Novel Writing Month if you guys have not heard of it. And if you are a writer or an aspiring author, then you need to know about NaNoWriMo. But basically it is this amazing website slash movement where everyone who wants or dreams of writing a book decides that they're gonna tackle writing it in the month of November alone. And that's a crap ton of work. And so the reason I wanted to talk about this book specifically is because this is my debut novel, and if you guys do not know, The Murder Complex was a NaNoWriMo novel. This was published with HarperCollins in 2014, and so at this point in time, I kind of feel like I'm a tiny bit of a NaNoWriMo veteran, and I figured you guys, if you're doing Nano, deserve this video. You need some help. So I'm not sure what this video is. Call it what you want. Taylor Swift reference, huh? But I'm gonna give you guys 5 quick tips for surviving NaNoWriMo. When I think back on those first days of writing the very first draft of The Murder Complex, I remember how terrible it was. But beautifully terrible in a way where I was so inspired and I knew, look, I've got 30 days to pound out this draft and I'm gonna do it. Somehow I did. It ended up at about 50,000 words. I revised for 2 years, got 120 rejections on this novel, got rejected by 20 something publishers, and then finally HarperCollins came in and saved the day and offered it a shiny book deal. NaNoWriMo likes to tell you that you need to do 55,000 words, that's your goal, and you don't have to hit 55,000 words, but for some reason I always thought that has to be what I do, and if I don't make that in 30 days, then I'm a failure. So tip number 1, forget about word count. I'm not joking, forget about word count, it doesn't matter. I don't give a crap about what the word count is, as long as the story itself has every point that it needs, as long as every scene is moving it towards the end. Complete plot arcs, character arcs, and that everything fits together in this nice shiny package. And when you're done with Nano, you're gonna have your first draft, but that's not the final product. Screw the word count, make sure that the story is there, just get from beginning to middle to end, and then worry about the rest later. Tip number 2 is plotting, and I realize that we're already into Nano, you may have already started, but you guys, I can't stress the importance of plotting. I can't stress it enough. When I first started out, when I was first writing, I hated it. I wanted to be a pantser, and that's someone who just dives into the novel and just sees it in their head and then they just go. But then I started to realize that as I began this career of writing novels, I was getting lost along the way and I was getting stuck all of the time. And if you are really wanting to complete Nano and you want to get this draft done in 30 days, then you need to know where you're going. At this point in time, we're still early enough in Nano that you can stop and take a little bit of time to realize, do I know where this story is going? Do I have my problem figured out? Do I have my solution figured out? Do I know where it's gonna start and where it's gonna lead to, and then eventually where it's gonna end? Plotting, as much as it sucks, as hard as it is for me to do, and maybe for some of you, it's super important because when you eventually do get a book deal or you get an agent, they're gonna wanna know that you have an idea of how to tell a story. When I wrote The Murder Complex for Nano, I didn't realize that it was going to end up being a duology someday. And eventually when it came time to write book 2, I realized that I hadn't plotted book 1 well enough to know that, oh crap, this is gonna turn into this book someday and I'm gonna have to figure that out too. Which leads me to tip number 3, and that is get a notebook. Or just something that you could write with, whether it be note cards or tons and tons of pages in Scrivener, which is this awesome app for writers. It's kind of like taking my roadmap in my head, my plotted out kind of ideas, and then I translate. I'm not gonna show you too many examples because this is all pretty private stuff, but I come up with book ideas. I scribble them down. I have my beginning, my middle, my end. I have my characters. I have descriptions of them. I interview my characters. I do quick Q&As with them where I ask them the dumbest questions ever about who they are, what they like, what they hate. With my settings, this is a really crappy sketch of a planet for a novel I worked on a long time ago, but I sketch everything out. I like to see what's happening here and then where I can put my characters and where my plot is actually gonna move around on the map. And then sometimes I'll even take note cards and I'll figure out, okay, this is the whole beginning chunk of the novel, and I'll split it up into 6 or 7 different parts, however many scenes I feel make up that first first part of my novel, and I'll paste them like on my wall just so that I have them and I can see them all the time, and it will just guide me. And if I get lost, I can go right back to that where I realize this is the direction I need to go and this is how it's gonna work. Which leads me to the next tip, and that is giving yourself a routine. I'm a super creative person, which also means I have a lot of anxiety. I don't know why the two of those seem to go hand in hand, but for me, I need like a clean space where I write. And for each book, for some reason, I just pick a spot, and that seems to be the place where I have to go. And when I sit there, it's like the magic suddenly starts happening. I like to have music. I put these on. I listen to writing music. Here's a sample. Huh? Yeah? You like it? It's great. I have my journal with me. I have iced coffee with cream. I have all of the things that I need to kind of get my like mentalness. I have all the things that I need to get myself into the right mental state so that when I sit down, my body and my mind know, okay, it's time to write this story. And then on the flip side of that is the next tip, and that is make sure you take some breaks. NaNoWriMo is super intense. It's kind of like this really long road trip. Like if you were to get in a car and drive 20 something hours across the country, if you didn't stop to sleep or go to the bathroom, it just wouldn't end well. And I feel like it's the same way with NaNoWriMo. You're so focused on like finish the book that you exhaust your creativity. And so I think it's important that as you're looking at your Nano calendar, you may have all of your days planned out. Pick just like 1 or 2 or 3 days. I know it's hard to like give up any time at all when you're working on this, but just pick a couple of days where you just stop writing. And instead of writing, maybe you should just dream about the book. These are the days when I think about my characters. Have I given them enough of like a backstory? What makes them interesting? Where did they come from to get to where they are now? I look at my world and I realize, is there anything interesting about this world? For the murder complex, it takes place in the futuristic Florida Everglades. And so I looked at it and I looked at a map of the US as it is now, and I thought, what can I change? What would be different by the time this book takes place? I ended up putting this massive sinkhole in the world where stuff just caves in. I made this giant dome called the Catalog Dome where it shows the faces of all the thousands and thousands of people that have died in this world. And those are some of my favorite parts of the novel, and it's because I sat down and I just stopped writing for a day and I just thought about how I could make it cool, how I could expand upon it, things that would excite me, and what did I envision, almost like a film, when I was thinking about this story. And then the next day when I was ready to go back to work, I was so excited, I felt energized, I was like, okay, let's do this. And now on to the next tip, which is don't be afraid to take detours. I know I talked about plotting and I know I talked about scheduling and all the things that like keep you on track as you're working, but I think it is really important sometimes to allow your creativity to be distracted by something that maybe you don't realize. And it kind of tugs at you and pulls at you and you follow it, and then you end up seeing like the most beautiful, perfect, random thing. One of my favorite characters in Zenith is Lyra. She's a pilot. Lyra has these scales on her skin that heat up when she feels emotions, and it really screws up things for her a lot. But Lyra was not planned to be like a POV in Zenith, and now she's like one of my favorite characters to write. Again, I don't know if this was a NaNoWriMo survival guide. I don't know if it was random writing tips and tricks with Lindsay, but I hope that some of it encouraged you guys. I'm so excited that you're working on NaNoWriMo. If you are writing, let me know in the comments what you're working on. Please let me know. I want to help in any way that I can. And when Nano is over, I'm really excited. This is a very cool announcement. I'm gonna go way more into depth on it later, but I have an editorial company. I do freelance editing with one of my critique partners. Her name is Rebecca Fabian, and we have started Author Crash Course. I will leave the link below, but basically we take a look at your novel, we edit it, we offer video consultations, we offer all sorts of stuff. So when you're ready for your novel to be edited, I am here, I'm excited. Finally at this point in my career, I'm ready to help give you guys some solid advice, and I want to see you all succeed. Thank you so much for watching. I love you, God loves you, don't forget to love yourself. Again, good luck with your nano drafts. Please don't get too frustrated, hang in there. I'm here if you want to talk, and I'll see you guys next time.